Today is Sunday, March 26th, 2017. This is Celtics Beat on CLNS Radio, and I am Larry H. Russell. By the way, in other news around the NBA on Friday night, the Boston Celtics cruised to their sixth win in their last seven, and most importantly, improved to 21 games over 500, high watermark of the Brad Stevens era. Devin Booker, 70 points. Were they just a footnote as the Celtics continue their improbable chase in trying to usurp the world champion Cleveland Cavaliers for the Eastern Conference first overall seed? Ask our guests and a whole lot more. The Globe's Bob Ryan, coming up on episode number 202 of the number one podcast on iTunes dedicated to the NBA's winningest franchise.
Seen nothing like that. Chasing those numbers, but I mean, it is what it is.
Let me just say that the night Wilt got 100, there were shenanigans. There were delays. They were trying to get him to 100. These things, most of the time, have some kind of a gimmick attached to it. I don't know about Kobe's. I had never heard that there was. Maybe that's an exception. But most of the time, these things have some kind of gimmick. The ball kid that got the 92, he was standing at midcourt and not going to play defense at times, stuff like that. So there was a gimmicky aspect to it, but you don't want to detract from it's a phenomenal performance by a player that I have been targeted. I targeted him right away. I loved that kid at college. So anyway, the Ricky Davis thing was it was annoying. Obviously, it was stupid. The way that came down, going for his own rebound and all that, missing on purpose to get an offensive rebound is. But these things. Hey, the day that Kevin McHale had the 56 against the Pistons, Larry was feeding him relentlessly. They didn't have to feed Kevin. They were winning with the. They weren't. They did.
And
that
he was ripped. He didn't go for more.
He told Larry.
I read that in your book too.
Yes, and Larry has also repeated that in a podcast I just recently did with Larry. We got into that, and Larry reiterated that he wanted Kevin to get 60, and in part because it was against Kent Benson, who Larry had a score to settle with. But the Celtics, hey, relax. Yes, there was a gimmicky nature to it, but the Suns have become a traveling circus now. I mean, it's starting five kids who barely shave, and their aim is clear, and so the Celtics still have a thing in their about the Suns because they had that ridiculous experience out in Phoenix when they handed a game away to the Suns, and then now they're taking it out on the Suns. No, you're taking it out on yourself.
There were actually, you mentioned that there were shenanigans in every single one of these, there's shenanigans in Wilt's 100 or shenanigans in Kobe's 80. Or, I mean, there are, dare you say it, there were actually some, I don't know what to call it, shenanigans in Bird's 60 because the Celtics were winning that game all the way along, but they sort of
that's right.
There are plenty of parallels in Friday's, the 4-point play that didn't count, that was the same thing with Larry. That was a highlight that actually, that basket never counted, but there were shenanigans in that Bird's 60.
That's right, and I do believe that, remember that last day when the scoring race was settled between David Robinson and Gervin or Thompson.
David Thompson, the 70. I was going to ask you
David
about
Thompson,
that. 71.
You can bet that had a little poop attached to it. So these things happen. That's why. You know what I was thinking about this in the shower about this magnifies the glory of what Michael Jordan did on the April 20th, 1986, because those 63 points against the Celtics were as ungimmicky as you could ever be, and they were completely out of the flow. They were beyond legitimate, and that's the way to do it, of course. And so there you go.
Well, the one thing about that game was the team that Jordan played and scored the 63 against. There was a terrible team.
Yeah, that Celtics team, with those underachieving guys, God, we suffered with them all year. It was terrible.
Yeah. Here with Bob Ryan of the Boston Globe, author of Scribe, My Life in Sports, and many books, and of course the latest endeavor, which you alluded to. I have to give you the floor on this before I forget, and I would kill myself if I forgot. So you got to take this away from me. Please plug the latest endeavor, Mr. Ryan.
I have entered into the podcast world. I've done 3 of them. First one was with Bob Lobel. The second one was with Bob Cousy. and the third one was with Larry Bird. And I'm quite proud of them, frankly. I think they have been well received. I would highly recommend anybody go check them out. And if you're a Celtics fan, obviously you want to hear from Bird. And we tried to draw him out on a variety of topics, both that are relevant today, such as resting and triple doubles and 3-point shooting, and as well as a little stroll down memory lane. But there's quite a bit of meat in there. I think we did about an hour, and I'm pleased with it. So it's called the Bob Ryan Boston Podcast. So there's my commercial.
We need a little spoiler on Larry Bird's opinion on resting, because that is the hot topic du jour in the NBA.
Well, very simple. I can sum it up.
He wasn't a fan of it, I know.
In my day, it was not even a thought. We couldn't even. He said, as a matter of fact, he said, I always took back-to-backs as a challenge, quote unquote. And it's just an alien concept. It was just not a thought. That it didn't matter. You played. The schedule was there. You played. That was it. Unless you couldn't play. And now, as Larry's career progressed, and he had the back injury and the elbow injury and the heels injury and all, the last 6 years of his career, Larry was happy every single night he could get out there. He was far from thinking about resting. He just wanted to get out there. He was just happy to be able to play in yet one more game. And so, he just. But he said, "I understand what's going on, but I'm just saying that this is something that we never entered our minds."
Real quick, I do want to touch upon this briefly before we talk about the team at hand, the Celtics. They're playing okay. They're actually playing very, very well. Where do you sort of come down on your personal, Mr. Ryan's opinion on resting players in the NBA? I have a small conspiracy theory in that a lot of they're all, the Cavs, the Warriors, and the Spurs resting players, I think, deliberately on national TV to quote unquote send a message that there's less back-to-backs in the future. But I mean, your personal opinion on?
Well, November 1, there's nothing that can be done about it now. They'll have to address it in the off season, and see about what they're going to do. I don't know. You can't tell coaches how to run their team, and people are going to lie. What's going to happen, Larry, is that people, as they lie and fudge with injured list in every sport, they are going to lie and fudge, and they're going to, no matter what they're told, they're going to hold guys out. Oh, his back acted up. You can always follow that. He has a stomach flu.
Yeah, he has a flu. We don't want him spreading a disease.
We used to kid about the Olynyk flu when the Celtics practiced over in Brookline. We laughed about some guys weren't playing because they had the Olynyk flu, and so they're going to lie. I don't see how it can be governed. I don't.
Yeah, such regulations could lead to. I referenced, if you hear something. Remember the infamous baseball all-star game that ended at a tie, and it was, oh, my God, what do? We have to do something. I don't know what to do, but we should do something. And then it, of course, ends up with a brilliant idea of, oh, let's have the all-star game decide home field advantage in the World Series. That'll get the players to play hard. And it's like 15 years later, that's the stupidest gimmicky thing we've ever decided. Of course, that creates over-regulations. But yeah, anyways, Mr. Ryan, let's talk about what's truly relevant here at hand. Devin Booker, 70 points, of course, right? That's it. We'll remember that like we'll remember Mike Cameron's 4 home runs. I don't think, maybe.
Well,
maybe.
I mean, if you were there, look, this is why you never know. My favorite, talk about athletic and regular season games. You never know when something interesting is going to happen. Obviously, you never know. Who knew the night in September, 10 years ago, that a pitcher making his second start for the Red Sox was going to throw a no-hitter? Who knew that? You don't know that. You didn't know that day that Mike Cameron was going to hit 4 home runs. You didn't know that. You didn't know that Devin Booker. I mean, if he had 40, you would have been impressed. 50, you would have been impressed. 70, wow, a magic number that's seldom reached in NBA history. You never know. It was a nice night to be there if you're a Celtic fan. You got the win and you got to see the guy get the 70. That's the good daily double that you always want. Is as long as your team wins, and you don't care what the opposing player does, and if he does something historic, you never know. For example, the night in Labor Day night, 2001, that Mike Massino was going to come within. It's going to come within 1 hour.
Raise the roof, Carl Everett.
And that you had the worst mixed feeling possible. Who wanted to root for Carl Everett? Certainly not Red Sox fans. And Carl Everett's the guy that spoiled it, So you never know about these things. So now that's why you pay money and you see what happens. So
and you never knew Jordan after the 63 would become Michael Jordan. Maybe the Devin Booker 70-point game maybe we're going to be making cracks 10 years from now that the only man who could hold Devin Booker under 20 points was John Calipari.
Well, let's go back to Devin Booker. I find it interesting. I loved him in college. I thought he was underdrafted. I thought that Cal should have played him more. I thought that maybe if he played him
it was on a
35
loaded
minutes
team,
and the championship game they would have won in the semifinal game. They would have won. I know that that kid to me was obviously really something special, and I think he's going to be obviously he's going to be a terrific player. So the 70 is a number that's hard to wrap your head around. You associate that with the Wilt Chamberlains and the Michael Jordans of the world and all that. But
MJ never scored 70, right? 69, Cleveland. MJ, 69 against Cleveland.
Pete Maravich had 68. Will had the most 70s, obviously, but that's an amazing number. I mean, but this kid's for real. There's no gimmicky thing here. He's for real. He's going to be an NBA staple. He's going to be a star. He's going to be an Olympian. He's going to be all those things. I'm not. Look, can I prove it to you this morning? No, I can't. I cannot prove it to you. But I'm telling you that I sang that kid's praises 2 years ago. I thought he was really, really good, and I'm not stunned that he's turned out to be this good.
I'll round up anyone who doesn't take you at your word, though. So don't worry about it.
I'll tell you when I'm wrong, but I was right about this one.
10 minutes into the show, we've yet to talk about the hometown team, 21 games over 500. Whose fault is that?
Well, there's a lot to talk about, but I'm happy with the team. I think the team is exactly this is the Dennis Green thing. They are who we thought they were. They're exactly as good, no better, no worse than we thought they could be. I thought they were going to win 52 or 53 games somewhere in there, and we're going to have the number 2 seed.
Right again.
Now it turns out they have a chance for the number 1 seed. So I mean, it's a matter of health. That's why I'm let's get right to it. I totally mean this. I'd rather have 7 road games and be healthy than in the playoffs than 7 home games and not be healthy. So I want health, and they've finished. We know all the reasons why you want the top seed, who you can avoid on the way up. You got Game 7 at home. Blah blah blah. I'm sorry. I still want health above anything else. Give me a healthy team, and I'll take my chances.
I would say that's kind of a safe thing to say, considering, I mean, pretty much predominantly, and you're going to sing this more so than anyone, because this season, I think, solely comes down to just winning that first-round playoff series. They win the playoff series. Doesn't matter if they win 55. Doesn't matter if they win 49. It's all about winning that first-round playoff series, right?
They have to do that because otherwise this whole thing that will feel like a letdown, and it's going to be a tremendously crushing disappointment in the season. The good things are going to be quickly forgotten and shoved aside, and it's going to be 4 years in. You know who he is, hasn't won a playoff series. Brad Stevens needs this. There's no question. Now, once that, and then because the pressure will accelerate them, because let's say it's an easy one, and then say they did have the first seed, and they do have a relatively easy second round opponent. So then the pressure will be ratcheted up. But they got to win a series this year. That is the minimum standard, and that I don't think anyone would disagree with that.
Yeah, and even no matter what, of course, I think we'll slightly forgive them if they can somehow find a way to get in the lottery. Of course, I know that's a topic that we're certainly going to get to, because I know you, as you referenced, your eyes are certainly on college basketball, and I know you're, as we've discussed privately, our favorite, Mr. Josh Jackson. We'll get to him. But anyways, what in God's name do I even talk about with what's going on the floor? I mean, because my opinions seem to be fluid pretty much with this Celtics team. I mean, only fluid is because it feels like I'm critiquing almost everything. Marcus Smart can do all the these great things one night, then go 1 for a gazillion against Phoenix, as he did on Friday, and he's actually been shooting the ball just horribly since the All-Star break. But I actually want to talk about Horford only because everybody else seems to be talking about Horford. I have no idea why everyone else seems to be talking about Horford. It isn't like because he's making $26 million or anything, and that's a very of course, that's exactly why. But I know you're a fan. I'm a fan. The old staple question is, Al Horford worth $26 million? And it's, I don't know. No, he's worth $24.5 million. Is that a huge issue? Or if we're going to throw away bizarre, random, late 90s Red Sox references, I brought this up with Chris Forsberg last week, this isn't Jose Offerman or anything. And, in fact, he's actually playing, I don't know if, how much you've been watching, but, I mean, he's playing really, really well. The Celtics are involving him. They didn't do it against Phoenix, but they did it earlier in the week against Indiana, the Washington game, Philadelphia game for the first 3 quarters, that debacle of a loss. I'm not sure you caught that because it happened during the NCAA tournament. But, Al Horford was just chewing it up for 3 quarters. They took him out. Philly got back in the game. He comes back in. Then they stopped feeding him, or he stopped getting the ball down low. But what do you think about that? He's been involved a lot more, in the blocks more so, and that was something he was struggling with What do you think of the Celtics deliberately getting him now involved a lot more offensively?
Well, I certainly think it's to their benefit because the man can't pass the ball. He sees the floor. He passes the ball well, whether he's facing the basket or goes back to the basket. He keeps the offense going. He's done. He knows how to. He can make contributions without having box score numbers, but he's having box score numbers that get your attention a lot more recently. This average fan just didn't get it. As far as what the money's concerned, it's the going rate. So just suck it up. It's not your money. Don't worry about it. If the Red Sox had, if the Celtics hadn't given it to him, someone else would have. So that's the going rate, and they would not be sitting at 47 and 26 without Al Horford. All right, they wouldn't ever be there with a lot of people, but I'm saying he needed that, and I think I'm looking forward to his playoff contribution. I think he's going to be, the more important the games are, I think the more you're going to be appreciating having Al Horford on the side.
Straight up question. Do you like him more on the perimeter, facing up, trying to pass over defenses, or better in the blocks, or, of course, is it fluid? Is it a matchup thing, but if he gets it...
Yeah, what I liked about him, and one reason I was happy to get him, is the versatility. I like low post play. I like inside out still, and he can give you that. The ratio, I don't know what the ratio would be this year, but 2-to-1, 3-to-1 perimeter versus post, maybe more, I don't know. But the thing about him, he can give you what you need. He's adaptable. I mean, he's not a one-trick pony. That's the great beauty ultimately of him. He can help you in so many ways, and he can help you offensively as a part of a perimeter, as a perimeter player. He can help you offensively as a post player. Those kind of guys are in short supply in this day and age. Usually it's one or the other, and very few of the post players at all. So they've got a guy that can give you that. But so it's going to be, I think it changes nightly and changes as the game progresses. So that's his great beauty, versatility.
I know it's a very anecdotal observation that I seem to have, but the Celtics actually seemingly getting him more involved offensively, particularly down in the low block, where he was not very effective throughout much of the season, and I've documented it here up until recently, really these past 4 or 5 games or so. He just seems to be. There seems to be a little more of a bounce in his step on the defensive end. If you just getting him involved a lot more. But it's funny you talk about how you just have your traditionalists. You enjoy the inside out game, big guy down low in the blocks. Isn't it interesting because I know you're going to love this, but the perception change and the language we use 10 some years later about big guys on the perimeter. It used to be. How about your main man, your old friend Nelly, that he had finesse teams. Now they're versatile. There's floor space, and when Don Nelson was playing, I don't want to go back to the Milwaukee days, which you remember well, but I'll go with him in Dallas when he was playing Walt Williams at center. It was that's a complete fraud of a team. That's a finesse team. It's almost like he was 30 years ahead of his time in that.
Nelly was very innovative and fearless, and he didn't absolutely. Nelly. He took Manute Bol and made him a 3-point shooter. He's totally that. He had that Run DMC team in Oakland and at Golden State. So Nelly was never shy about, never worried about aesthetics. He did whatever he thought. He had this personnel. That's what I liked about him. I mean, among many things, but he didn't have a system. He had whatever the roster was. He tried to adapt the players. He wasn't ever into a square peg in a round hole kind of thing. We never had to worry about that with Nelly. Yes, he was ahead of his time in this regard, and I'm sure he's sitting there in Maui some nights looking at the TV and saying, "Yeah, I did that. Yeah, big deal."
Jim O'Brien using Rodney Rogers at center on your favorite Celtics team, the Bombs Away squad, pulling out Mutombo. Does this team beat the 0-2 Celtics? I don't know why I asked that question.
They really played well right through the game. The comeback game against the Nets, and then
it all fell apart.
They lost that next game. It was heartbreaking. I can still see
Pierce missing the free throw.
Oh God, you wouldn't even talk about it. But anyway, I think. Very possible. It'd be a good series. It'd be a real good series, and I don't know. That'd be good. But that team, they overachieved though, and I think definitely. And Jim O'Brien will never be remembered for the service he provided this team after Rick bolted. He provided stability for quite a while there, and I just hope that somebody remembers that someday.
Oh, come on! I remember it. It was in my book.
Fans. People don't remember he even coached here. You know, he was the ultimate button-down guy. You know, that he was a serious guy. No nonsense with Jim O'Brien, but he was a solid guy.
Brief break in the action to announce our ongoing contest on how to win tickets to the Celtics' final regular season matchup against the Cleveland Cavaliers on April 5th. This game could very well decide which team gets home court advantage throughout the Eastern Conference playoffs, so suffice it to say it is a big one, and we here at Celtics Beat are giving away 2 tickets to see the Celts take on LeBron and the world champion Cavs. Here's how to enter. Write a review for Celtics Beat on iTunes, and you are in the contest. Subscribe, rate, and write a review. Your name shows up. You're in the drawing, which we will announce here in 2 weeks. Again, subscribe, rate, and write a review for Celtics Beat on iTunes. Best of luck to those who enter, and thank you so much to those who do. Episode number 202 of Celtics Beat with Bob Ryan is being presented today by SeatGeek. As the Celtics playoff push heats up in their chase for that number 1 seed, SeatGeek is the smartest, easiest way to get tickets to every game. With SeatGeek's seamless mobile experience, you can buy and sell tickets in just 2 taps. SeatGeek helps you find the best seats at the best prices, fully guaranteed. I have the SeatGeek app on my phone, and it is by far the easiest way I found to shop for tickets. And if you want to get in on the action with the potential playoff previews this week with Miami tonight at the Garden or Milwaukee here on Wednesday, there is no better place to get the best deals on tickets to Celtics games, both home and away, than the mobile ticketing app. And remember that it doesn't end with sports. SeatGeek also has plenty of concert, comedy, and theater tickets available too. And best of all, Celtics Beat listeners can support this production and get a $20 rebate off their first SeatGeek purchase. To do so, download the free SeatGeek app, go to the settings tab, and click add a promo code and enter promo code CelticsBeat. All one word, and SeatGeek will send you $20 after you made your first ticket purchase. Download the free SeatGeek app and enter promo code CelticsBeat today. I know that wasn't your favorite team, though, and I know you enjoyed this team a lot more. So that, of course,
I do, but I mean, that team, I have to give them their due, and that comeback against the Nets is one of the great moments, and one of the great episodes in Celtic history. That fourth quarter comeback, down 20. I think about it every now and then. I think about it sometimes because Rodney Rogers was part of it, and we know the tragedy that befell him.
Sad story.
And that's right. I'd root for this team against that team. Let's just leave it at that.
73 team is your favorite. That we know from your book, Scribe My Life from
73
Sports.
and 80, 85, 86 is still the best, but 72, 73, absolutely. You talk about running, you're talking about that team.
Fill out the top 5 then. So that's 1, 2. What's 3, 4, 5?
Well, I'm not prepared in my head to do this right now. I'm really not. Certainly you have to go with one of the Russell teams, obviously they had so many of those. And 64, 65, I think 61, 62, was that the year they had the 8 Hall of Famers, But it was a different world then. I mean, the size thing was different. Everything was different then. There's no question about it. But the one thing we can always agree on, 85, 86, that was the pinnacle. That's the best basketball that I've ever seen by anybody. And I put that team up against any team at any time. And I still say that they're the best team of all time for a very simple reason that no other team brought a healthy Bill Walton off the bench. And there have been 6 men of all stripes, but only one like Bill Walton. No one changed the game the way Bill Walton did. And you put Bill Walton on the floor with Larry Bird, something that there's never been anything to match that ever. So that's the one thing that I'm not going to budge. That's the best team.
Got to go back to your podcast because I assume, I confess, I have yet to listen. I got to get around to it tomorrow, start of the work week on Monday. I know how fond Larry was of being able to play with Bill. Was that touched upon on the show?
No, that's one of the great regrets I had. This is the thing about Larry Bird.
Rookie mistake, Bob.
No, we talked. Well, there's too many things. We talked just so much with him that I wanted to touch upon, and I didn't get around to Bill. He made one oblique reference to Bill, a kidding reference to Bill, and about and which was, of course, in the game 6 against the Rockets in '86. Walton comes in the game and turns it over either 2 or 3 times in a row in the first period, and the game was a game for a while until Larry took control of the game. But that's the only reference to Bill that came up, and there were other lots of stuff left unsaid, which only means, Larry, that there will be someday a part 2 or maybe part 3, because there was so much undone. With Larry, you could talk about the player, the coach, the executive, but obviously there's only so much you can do in an hour. But I tried to touch as many bases as possible. But I did leave the bases. I did leave the bases loaded, I will admit.
Of course, though, that's where you can also just play. You can get to send the sacrifice fly and then say, oh, well, anything I missed, just go check out Drive, which I, wrote 25 years ago. But I do know that you were pressed for time a little bit, Mr. Ryan, so I do have to get 2 opinions on your 2 favorite players on the team. I don't know, who should we start with? Marcus Smart, Kelly Olynyk, the ultimate, the dichotomy between those 2 are just, in my eyes, incredible. Both are net pluses for the Celtics, yet I feel like they should be better. It's just... I don't know. Where do you want to start? I know you.
Okay, I'll start with they are interesting contrasts. Marcus Smart's all about energy, all about grit and passion and aggressiveness, and I call him a junkyard dog player. He ain't pretty. He's going to have, and when the shot goes in, he's a terrific asset. He's a scary asset. He's always going to get after you. You're always going to have that defense. You're always going to have the hustle play. He's going to make those kind of plays, and that a lot of guys aren't going to make. Kelly Olynyk is a finesse guy. He's a glider. He's a 7-foot glider who can shoot from the outside. He's in the mold of the much discussed and much desired stretch 4. He's a 4.5. You never seldom see him ever put his back to the basket. He can pass the ball. I still think that his ability to pass has not been sufficiently exploited. I won't say it's never exploited, but he can really pass the ball, and I hope that Brad and the staff can keep working on figuring out how they're going to implement him into the offense to take advantage of his passing. But he's an asset, and when he's got the shot going, he's had a lot of games in the second half of the year where I think I won't say he was the difference, but he was really an integral part of the game on the plus side. They're very different, and at this point, I think we can safe to say he's not changing. You want him to be a little more assertive. He is more assertive getting his shot. He's never going to be a bull on the backboards, okay? But he's just going to get area rebounds. He's not going to get rebounds that don't belong to him that great rebounders get. It's just not going to happen. So that's it. You got him. He's part of the whole. I think he is a rotation player on a nice team, and he could be a rotation player on a championship team, as can Smart. And I like having them both around. It's fun.
Yeah, but I don't think the ceiling is quite settled on Smart. I still hold out a little hope with that shot developing, which I think for him is very, very important, only because it's interesting. He's so fast. He has great straightaway speed. He has a lot of speed, but he has just zero explosiveness. He just really can't seem to shake any defender in terms of getting to the basket. He can finish because of his strength, and I know the big thing this week that's been put out by the many people on the beat, like Chris Forsberg and our own Jared Weiss has talked about Marcus Smart posting up at something like the 6th most efficient play in the NBA since the All-Star break, which I actually have to say something to that. I wonder if even going forward, if teams would now start to be put bigger players on Smart, because if they see the fact that he just isn't just explosive enough. You saw the post-up play. In fact, did you catch the Washington game where he pretty much
I didn't.
He made so Washington cut it to 6 with like a minute 50 to go. The Celtics were still going to win that game, but it was up in the air, and he made the 3 clinching plays of the game. They fed him right down in the block against Bogdanovic, and he just bulls right to him, puts him up that gate. Then he makes the game, then he makes the steal on the other end, and then he makes both, the game-clinching free throws. That brings it up to 10. It's amazing how, bizarrely clutch he is. He's an intriguing player. You talk about an unpredictable X factor. I think that's a safe thing to say. He's a nightly X factor. And when the shot goes in, boy, then you've got a terrific player. But we know that everyone would like to see him more reliable on offense, and I don't know that it's going to happen. We may have if this is what we have. All right, there's something. It's still an asset, but you so often want more out of people, and at some point you have to realize they are what they are, and it's just not going to change. But this is who they got. This is what they got. This is part of the mix. I'll tell you, we haven't talked about this, but the one thing I like about this team, you got Smart, you got Brown now, and you've got Bradley. 3 guys who can get after you. And boy, there are times when they can really clamp on some good D.
and that's why I have some reasonable hopes for the playoffs, because obviously that's going to be a factor.
And then you add Josh Jackson in the mix. That's almost too much.
Well, Josh Jackson, that we both agree that your pulse starts quickening when you think about if you could ever add that kid to the mix. I think that there's a scoring dude right there, and an athletic kid that would really enhance the whole program. And there's a lot of interesting players out there, but I would make the Goo-Goo, for me, the biggest pair of Goo-Goo eyes. I'm making it Josh Jackson.
Give me a real, before I get you out of here, give me a real quick, I love asking you to rank something. No one is better than you, because I know you've had the all eyes on college basketball. I mean, me and you have been going back on Josh Jackson all year, particularly what he does defensively. I mean, we talk about Marcus Smart's defense. Josh Jackson's defense looks, I mean, God, I'm going to get killed for saying this. It sounds like such a hot take, but it's like very Pippen-like in that just the being able to keep someone in front of him and the long arms, but just seeing him get his hands on so many balls in the passing lane. It seems like 6 times a game he's deflecting the ball in the passing lane, covering 4 positions. It's incredible. So real quick to get you out of here, give me like a Bob Ryan from what you're watching in the tournament thus far. Give me the Bob Ryan big board for the Celtics top 5 of these calls.
I don't know. First of all, the guards. You don't need. That's not the need. And you're looking at Ball and Fultz, and I wish I had seen more of Markelle Fultz. I haven't. I don't have a feel for him. I'm sorry, so I can't even.
Oh, join the club. I haven't seen.
I don't have a feel for him. But if you saw De'Aaron Fox and go off, he's awful enticing. But that's not what they need. That's why I keep going. Yeah, on the board, and for rating him, Ball is very possibly number 1. Fultz, I think. Jackson, Fox, there's 4 right there. I'm not sure. I think that I would guess this, Larry. I think that there'll be a lot of interesting divergence of opinion as to where the teams would rank these guys. I think that there would be a lot of people who love Fultz, and a lot of people who love Ball, and a lot of people who love Jackson, a lot of people who love Fox, Monk of Kentucky for the shooting. I like, UCLA not to be number 1, but I mean, I wouldn't mind having on my team TJ Leaf. I like that kid a lot. So it's an interesting year. But the Ball's going to be a real interesting story. He didn't have the best game last night when they lost to Kentucky. People were suggesting that he was exposed to some degree. I think you have to be careful with that. But maybe there was something that people learned about him last night. I don't know.
Bob Ryan, sports columnist, emeritus for the Boston Globe, author of Scribe, My Life in Sports. Get it at all the usuals, local bookstores, Amazon.com, of course, Audible, audible.com/try now for free audiobooks. So get Mr. Ryan's Scribe, and of course, all the many books on Larry Bird if you miss anything, and of course, Bob Ryan's podcast. We are actually obligated to one thing by our sponsors here, Bob, and that is a pregame show. There is a game tonight against Miami, 6 o'clock tip. So I guess outside of the Celtics, needing to score a little more points than a Miami team that has played incredibly well since the last time the Celtics saw them when they haven't been competitive. Yeah, go ahead. Take the floor on that.
It's one of the strangest stories I've ever seen in all the years I covered the NBA and watched the NBA. A team that was as down and out as they were to get as hot as Miami got and still is playing very well. It's just a complete turnaround. It's amazing. So I think I'm going to give lots of props here to Eric Spoelstra, and I think people finally give the guy his due as a really good coach, and we know they had certain components, Whiteside and so forth. So anyway, Miami not suddenly. This has been going on for 2 months. Miami has become a team that you got to worry about.
Playoff preview. And you didn't reference, and it's so bizarre. We talk about gunners and Todd. Here's the name, Todd Day types. I don't think there's anyone who resembles Todd Day more in this generation than Dion Waiters, and all of a sudden Dion Waiters is carving out his own little name for himself. I actually have to see this. I have not seen this. Yeah.
When he was at Syracuse, Jim Boeheim said to me, and maybe not, I don't remember if it was a group or just to me, but I'm not sure, but I think it was to me, that Waiters is the best offensive guard he's ever had. And I went to myself, whoa, and I'm sure Waiters agrees to that. The one thing about this kid, this guy's got boundless confidence, but he's dangerous. They're so it's a team you got to reckon with them. Yeah, Miami.
6 out of 7 for the Celtics now to put them at 21 games over 500. High water mark, as I said in the intro, not just the Stevens era, But you got to go back to when Shaquille O'Neal was on the Celtics to win that. They were this far over 500. Yeah, not even that Eastern Conference Finals team in 12 was 20-plus games over 500. Remember, that was a struggle and a half that year. Anyways, it goes without saying that we still expect Boston to improve upon that, even with a tough Miami team here tonight, which I think the Celtics match up pretty well with. But even so, after tonight, a few days off before Milwaukee at home, then Orlando, who I'm going to put that one in the bank. I can't for the life of me remember when they played Orlando, that is, when they played a competitive game against the Celtics in Boston, let alone one up. But, yeah, 3 in a row for the Celtics, 6 of 7. Not normal for the Celtics to generally streak under Brad Stevens, both in either direction. You know, I actually have to give them credit for how good they are at responding. And after the Washington game, they are 18-8 after losses, which is 5th in the NBA behind just Houston, Golden State, San Antonio, and the Cavs. So that's pretty good company there. But just actually how they rebound. But in that, they rebound and rebounds. I don't know. I'm sort of okay. Here's what I mean by that. All right, just go back to the Philly game on last Sunday. Last time we were here, when Chris Forsberg was here, and he predicted it on the way out, and I think many of us did. In that was just a prime trap game. Of course, you know, it was just a lot harder to take in that the Celtics were seemingly, you know, well in control of that one with Al Horford dominating for the first 3 quarters. And they were up 13 when they took him out, and then he could never reassert themselves, and Philly was just scoring it well on the other end. You know, I don't want to get into that debacle at the end of the third quarter, handing the Sixers just 4 free points to cut it 3. But that's just another instance. But that game, just looking, it was another case of when the Celtics had yet another lackluster performance on the glass. I know statistically there have been improvements, at least in contrast to the rest of the league. I know a lot of the beat guys have been tweeting it out, but I still, from what I see fundamentally, they're just, I mean, in my eyes, on the eye test alone, I just still see a lot of fundamental issues when watching, and I thought the Philly game really showed that. I should have alluded to that with Bob, but of course I didn't want to go into detail too much because I know he skipped last Sunday's game to watch the NCAA tournament, but I just know I would have gotten the ever-entertaining Paul Silas reference out of him, which he's always good for whenever he's here. But anyways, going back to the Celtics, in that game, as bad as they were on the glass against Philly, pun completely intended on this one, they rebounded in the rebounding department against Washington. That won the game back on Monday. Biggest win, I would say, under the Brad Stevens era was Monday. And, you know, I've noticed, maybe it's just, for me, I've noticed a trend in that the Celtics, when they get embarrassed a bit in just some sort of aspect of the game, they actually really seem to rededicate themselves, at least for a game or two. Particularly the following game. I mean, another example I can reference is after the second game of the year when the Bulls killed them on the boards, and Boston did very well on the glass the following game in a win in Charlotte. So I don't know it's whether Brad Stevens motivating the boys or the boys motivating the boys. I don't know, but this, for me, it certainly looks like a trend. In that the Celtics are just able to rebound or bounce back, if you will. But you know, like I said, under Stevens, there have been no real long losing streaks. The Celtics have never really gone on, you know, things have never gotten out of control when there were points in times where it looked like it could have gotten out of control. You know, albeit also, too, there's been no long winning streaks. Turn back the clock to January 22nd, 2015. This is a somewhat watershed date for the Celtics. They won a game in Portland on an Evan Turner buzzer beater. It was the first time the Celtics won a road game against a Western Conference team under Brad Stevens. It actually took a year and a half for that to happen. January 22nd, 2015. From that point on, you know, the Celtics, they went on that run to make the playoffs that year, and they seemingly built upon it ever since. But they had one 5-game winning streak in 2015, but nothing longer than that. The next year, they had 2 5-game winning streaks, no more. This year, there's only been one 5-game. Only one, oh no. But only one 5-game winning streak, which was a 7-gamer actually this year, right before the All-Star break. But then in turn, they just, like I said, they don't go on long losing streaks either. Since the turnaround under Brad Stevens back in mid-January, and only in January or early January of 2016, there was a losing streak of 4 games. That's it. And I'm actually going to conveniently gloss over the playoff sweep against Cleveland. Sorry. And then twice this year, there have been 3-game losing streaks. So, I don't know, I felt just plugging those caveats was necessary to end the show, especially to those who we may kind of look way ahead now to the April 5th showdown in Boston against Cleveland. That very well looks like that could decide who gets home court advantage throughout the Eastern Conference playoffs. It's kind of surreal to say, as really it is. Write a review for Celtics Beat on iTunes to win tickets to that one. Can't really inflate that game enough, but a lot of us actually are. I'm going to confess that, I'm kind of shooing in the Celtics to win out up until that game. This could be the tricky one tonight with how well Miami is playing, but, Miami tonight, Milwaukee at home Wednesday, Orlando Friday, and then the Knicks. Talk about mailing it in for the rest of the year. I know it's a road game, but the Knicks a week from today down at Madison Square for an afternoon matinee. But hopefully that is the case, right? The Celtics do carry the longest win streak under Coach Stevens into that game. I believe it would be an 8-gamer if they do win out, or 7, whatever. It would be the longest winning streak, whatever it may be. The game of all time, April 5th. Until the next time they play the Cavs, right? Just a few weeks after that, we hope. You can only hope. Episode 211-ish or so. Be here, be square. But, for episode number 202 today, we thank Bob Ryan for joining us, as well as those who listened. We thank you ever so more. Thank you so much for downloading today's show. One more time, please write us a review on iTunes for free entry to win a pair of tickets for the Cleveland game on 4-5. Show today was presented by SeatGeek. Use promo code CelticsBeat for a $20 rebate on your first purchase. Today's music was provided by Chuck Beats and Steph DeGrateau. For staff writer Eddie Santiago, program director Justin Poulin, founder of the network Nick Gelso, I am Larry H. Russell. See everyone here next Sunday for another edition of the #1 podcast on iTunes dedicated to the NBA's winningest franchise.